all for the wonderful gathering for the program named Right Pitch to the Right Audience. I take immense pleasure to invite our Vice Chairman E.V. Kumaran sir, our beloved Register Dr. R. Sathisilan sir, our beloved Principal Dr. R. Ravichandran sir, who is at the background of every programs and motivators. So this program is mainly concentrate on how the professional students can enrich their basic knowledge in the subjects that they have been carrying out in the curriculum. So that's why the topics names are named as a right pitch to the right audience actually. So this particular topic will have an webinar series of about 5 topics actually. So this 5 topics will be crucially needed for the students to develop their projects and as well as the analytical and as well as the theoretical subjects. So we have a webinar series which contains a prologue on theory of computations and cloud journey, and we have an evolutions of networks, and we have an what are the future networking that should be carried out, and we have an telecommunication management systems to be carried out, and what way the cryptanalysis will be carried out in this cyber security. So all this kind of subjects has been taken with a different dimension, which is basically designed for the students by taking the question like why we need the subject, what is the specific need for the subject, and how the subjects are developed. So the basic is a crucial part of any kind of an idea. So regarding the curriculum, every students want to know why we need to study this particular subject, in what way this subject will be related to our society or our daily life. So if the students can able to understand this particular point, then the subject will be easy for them to carry out, and they can able to analyze in what way the subject can able to convert it as a project, or they can able to convert it as a social connectivity that is being mainly used for the society. So that is the main objective of this particular program with the name known as a right pitch to the right audience. So in today's program, we are going to see the topic of prologue on theory of computation, which is going to be taken by our department faculties, Mr. Uma Devi and Mr. Shobha, of an assistant professor of computer science department on today's session. So now I welcome our principal to felicitate the gathering. Please, sir.
Good evening, one and all present here. It's a great pleasure to be part of this web series, which is conducted by the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of Aruna Engineering College. Aruna Engineering College and the Department of Computer Science believes in teaching beyond the syllabus, strengthens and expands students' existing knowledge, and adds interest to the course. Such a broad knowledge base of the students made many students to have a over a clear advantage over their competitors in campus placements and elsewhere. For this purpose, the institute provides a platform in the name of Right Pitch to the Right Audience to equip and excel students in some of the select courses and advanced modules in the branch of Computer Science and Engineering of Aruna Engineering College. So I wish all the students and faculty of CSE to make use of the best out of this platform. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir, for your great appreciation as well as the work that we have been progressing on this pandemic situation. So let me move forward with this particular great initiatives. So now I request Ms. Uma Devi to take over the session on prologue on theory of computation. Please, ma'am.
Good evening to one and all present over here. Small steps in the right direction can take out to be the biggest step of our life. With this saying, I'm going to start my presentation on the topic titled Prologue on Theory of Computation. Okay, so this webinar session is going to talk on the topic of why we are going to study this subject for this forthcoming semester and what is the need for making this subject as a part of our curriculum. Basically, when we say this, theory of computation is supposed to be a foundation course for all the computer science engineers. So this subject has to be known in depth so that it can be it can be very useful if you're going to make any sort of research work in future. Okay, so this session is going to be handled by myself and one of my colleague of our department. Let me introduce myself. I am V. Uma Devi, working as a assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Aruna Engineering College for the past 10 years, and I am handling this subject for more than 3 years. Okay, so now when we go inside this session, we will see in what era or in what environment we are right now traveling on, right? So for when in the first intellectual revolution, so this slide is going to give you a short introduction of how we have come across all these years. Okay, so first intellectual revolution means, the word intellectual means you are going to see everything in a knowledgeable manner. Okay, so that is nothing but you are going to see each and everything, why it happens, how it happens, what is the technique behind this, or what is the logic behind this. Okay, so the first intellectual revolution started asking questions based on how this planet and what are the objects that are there present in this environment. And then second intellectual revolution started finding out the research work or the applying intellectual concepts over the genetical laws, that is biological factors. And then now we are traveling in the 20th and 21st century, which is called as technical century or technical era. Here we are going to have understanding of the human beings. Okay, so when we say it is supposed to be third intellectual revolution, we are going to interact with the humans. Okay, so we people, most of our time we are traveling or we are interacting only with the machines. What do we call it as machines? You agree with my statement, right? So most of our life we are interacting with devices, electronic devices. Okay, so being a computer engineers, we used to interact most of our time in computers. Okay, so computer is also supposed to be a device or a machine, right? So the computers have been invented. Computers have been invented for making out certain computations. So if you are going to have some computations, I've already told you theory of computation is going to give you an insight of what is the logic behind how your machine is getting worked out. Okay, so it is going to give you a mathematical proof or a mathematical representation of how the computation is taking place in the background. Okay, so that's why we say all the machines, whatever is invented for the ease of work of the humans, these things are supposed to be called as abstract machines. Okay, so abstract machines means abstraction. You know what is meant by abstraction. Abstraction means it will deliver only what you did. It will not say you how it is getting delivered. All those details will be hidden from you. Okay, so we don't know how it works. Most of us will buy the product, we will be using the machines, and we don't know how it works. So if we come to know about how it works, okay, so we have a theoretical knowledge of how it works. When we make this theoretical knowledge to be represented in the form of a mathematical entities, that is to be the base of this subject study. Okay, so that is what has been provided over here. So since we are all interacting with our environment is full of machine interaction only. We have moved from human to human interaction towards human computer interaction, and now we have made our advancement towards machine to machine interaction. Okay, so that is what is there presented already, as said by our in many of our webinar sessions conducted by our department. There was a word called IoT. So IoT means Internet of Things. So this Internet of Things will say you about how a machine to machine interaction has to take place. Okay, clear? So this is a slide saying you about what I was delivering you about the machines, right? So we are in the environment of having interactions more with your machines. Okay, so can we know what is the difference between a man and a machine? My first question is, keep all these questions in your mind, and when you have any answers to be delivered, you can give it out in your chat box. How a machine, whether machines overcomes humans, or machine will become a superlative power against humans, if it is there, if it is to be there presented. Okay, if it is.
You can maximize your screen, I think so. You can go for screen share. Yeah, the screen is sharing. You can go for slideshow.
Okay, sir.
So the visibility will be complete.
Now it's visible.
Ah, yes, fine.
Yes. Okay, fine. Okay, sir. So machines. So when we say we are machines, what is the basic difference between a man and a machine? Can man be replaced by machine in future? Everything to be having interaction with the machine to machine interaction, whether the world will become full of machine oriented. Is it possible? If your answer is yes, it will not be there, right? So actually inventing of machines, we are going to have it for the easy working of a man's task. Okay, so if there is machines to be there present in the form of robots, we are going to have development of robots to be there presented, right? So when we are going to have such type of environment to be there, actually it will not be there prevailing. Why? Because a machine cannot think by itself. We have to give rules. If the condition is like this, you have to react like this. Okay, so machines are supposed to be problem solvers. We can view a machine as a problem solver. We cannot view a machine as overcome of a human or a replacement of a man. Okay, so artificial intelligence, which is supposed to be an area which is an upcoming research area, and much more have been invented over there. So what happens over here is artificial intelligence, if you are going to give for any machine, okay, we are going to give the intelligence artificially, not like a man thinking. You cannot replace a man's emotions or consciousness or decision making features cannot be implemented. That becomes a big question mark or a big research area for the computer engineers. Okay, so in all these fields, whatever I am going to say, why I am saying about all these, this is supposed to be the current research areas which is going on for any computer engineer is going to work on. We are going to invent a machine. Okay, so invent a computer. The computer was first started as just a device to store our content. Okay, and then when internet has come, it become a, from communication device, it became as a problem solving device. Okay, so now it is going acting as a problem solving device. But even though if it is going to be a problem solving device, it cannot be replaced by a man's thinking capacity. That is a big question mark, and that is a big research area what we are working right now. Okay, so next, the objective. The objective of this session is to know why we are studying this course, what is actually the definition of this particular theory of computation course, when it is started to come into existence, and who are all will be benefited. Okay, so we are going to see all these things in the forthcoming slides. Okay, so first, why? Why? What is the reason for learning this subject? As we have already told, we have a problem. To overcome the problem, we go for we are going for invention of certain machines. Okay, so that device, what we are going to develop, okay, so that device which is we are going to develop, we have to know by studying or by learning this course, we will get an answer for all these 4 questions. What can and cannot be computed by your device? Okay, whether your device can solve this problem or it cannot solve the problem. If it is going to solve the problem, how fast it is going to give a response for your question, or for the problem, how fast it is going to provide you the solution. If you are going to provide you certain sort of solutions, okay, so when it is getting processed, how much of time it takes, okay, how much of space it takes. So since we are computer engineers, we are dealing with computer as supposed to be our machines. So how much the computer takes the memory space, how much of time it is taking to process your instructions, what you have given as input, all these things are to be determined by learning the subject. We will get a solution, or we will get a answer for all these sort of questions by learning this subject. Okay, so this is for better understanding the development. As I said you earlier, it is supposed to be theory of computation. It says how the computation takes place mathematically. You are going to represent the details of how the computation or how the computer is giving you the answer. Okay, so how the computer is giving you the response. We are going to represent those processing activities in the form of a mathematical models or mathematical properties. So in this subject, you can have a clear view that whatever we are going to have it in the form of mathematical proofs. Okay, so we are going to implement a mathematical models. That is what we have said. So mathematical models, mathematical views. So we are going to represent everything in the form of mathematics means you must have a mathematical knowledge to be there presented. We have a, as you are all upcoming 3rd years, in your 2nd year, you might have studied mathematics subjects like discrete mathematics, probability and queuing theory. All these mathematical foundations or the concepts will be applied or will be used in this subject also. Okay, so if you are clear in all those terms, it will be very easy for you to understand all the concepts what we have in this subject, theory of computation. Okay, so software, we are all software developers. So when you are going to develop a software to solve a problem which has been given for you, what you have to first think, whether your software, how much of memory space, if it is installed in your device, how much of memory space it will occupy. Okay, what are all the advanced features it will be having. So many people will be developing many software tools for the same problem. Okay, so how far your software tool will be superlative to the other tools developed by other type of computer engineers. Okay, so when you want to know all these efficiency, when we want to talk it in terms of efficiency, then you have to know certain concepts which are related with this subject, theory of computation. Okay, so this year, by studying this theory of computation, it helps you to develop mathematical and logical models that run efficiently and to the point of halting. Okay, it will give you much more ideas in making your problem to be solved in a very efficient manner. Okay, so then we are going to discuss about when. Okay, so why the invention of these machines started. So as I said you earlier, we started to design a machine to make ease of our works. Okay, so this theory of computation, its history starts right from 1930s. Okay, so 1930s, and Alan Turing was supposed to be the main person or scientist who was responsible for inventing the machine called computers. Okay, so Turing machines, when they say it is Turing machine, you can replace it with the word called computers. So computers is also going to be a computational device. Okay, so it is going to solve certain sort of problems which are to be inquired by the human beings to solve its problem. Then 1940 to 1950, finite automata machines were studied, and Noam Chomsky proposed the hierarchy called Chomsky hierarchy of formal languages. Okay, so formal languages. What do you mean by formal language? Formal language means the language which can be understood by the machines. Natural language is the language which humans can understand. Whereas formal languages means it is to be understood by the machine. So even if you are going to give your instructions in the form of a high-level language, it has to be converted into a machine understandable form. Okay, so for that machine understandable form, we have to give the programs. That is, we will be providing how to solve the problem in the form of algorithms, which you people might have read as well as studied in your second year as a course called Design Analysis and Algorithm. Okay, so for any problem given, you will devise the solution in the form, or you will solve the solution in the form of an algorithm. Okay, so algorithm will be made use for writing programming languages. So what I am coming to say is formal languages means programming languages. So the programming languages will be of three types. Okay, so nowadays we are writing programs without any syntax. Okay, so if only in this format if you are going to give, then we say it is called structured programming language. Okay, so C, C++, all those Java are supposed to be a structured. Structured means those programming languages will adhere to certain rules. Only in this format you have to give your instructions. Only then it can be compiled and it can be converted into a machine understandable form. Right? So all those restrictions were much more in your earlier days. Structured programming language, then came semi-structured, and now we are using a programming language which is supposed to be unstructured. We are moving towards unstructured form. Unstructured form means there is no syntax. Semantics will have to be maintained. Only syntax, you have to give a statement for searching only in this format. You have to write a program only in this format to interact with your computer. That restriction is getting diluted, and that is also a big research area where you can go. Then we go for 1969, Cook, a person who was concentrating on one type of problems called intractable problems. Okay, so in the next four coming slides, we will see about what are the different types of problems we will encounter. Okay, and in 1970s, we had the invention of a modern computers with compilers, computational complexity theory, everything got evolved. Before that, till 1970, it was a research area was going only on automata theory. Okay, then only, that is how to devise an algorithm to solve a problem. How does a machine has to work? We were concentrating only on that. After 1970s, whatever has been devised as an algorithm, they started analyzing that algorithm, how far it is efficient. So that says after 1970s, we were concentrating on the algorithms, what has been proposed earlier to solve any problem in the concepts of computational and complexity theory. Okay, so now we are coming into the main stream of what is meant by theory of computation. So theory of computation, it is nothing but a combination of two fields to be studied, computer science with mathematics. As I have already specified, mathematical representation of a machine is supposed to be the main stream for studying this subject. So theory of computation is a field or branch which deals with how efficiently problems can be solved on a model of computation using algorithm. Okay, so if you want to solve a problem, first you have to know how to solve the problem step by step. So this step by step representation to reach the solution is what we call it as an algorithm. So there are various ways of representing your algorithm. We are not going to see much into that. So next, you can also say theory of computation deals with the studies of general properties of computation, which helps us to increase the efficiency at which computers can solve problems. Why? Because we people will not be there ready to get an answer after 10 seconds. We cannot, nowadays, we cannot even wait for 10 seconds to give the response from it, to get a response from the computer. We want the response to be immediate. Even if you search something in your Google search engine, we want to get the answers, we want to get the web links very fast. Okay, so in the world of data science, now the world is evolving around a concept called data science, because much data are getting uploaded, data are getting accumulated in the internet servers. Okay, so when all these are getting interconnected, the time taken to get what we want is, you should have the response to be very short. So for having that to be getting efficiently and in a very quick manner, you have to analyze the algorithms. Okay, so only after analyzing the algorithm, we can find out its efficiency, whether the algorithm is efficient or it is going to give you an answer, which there will be many algorithms to solve a single problem. Which algorithm is the best? That you have to find. So that is found using a theory called, so this theory of computation subject deals with three types of theories: automata theory, computational theory, complexity theory. So automata theory will be dealing with what models of computation, your machine model works in what type of manner. Okay, so this is automata theory. 80% of your subject syllabus will be dealing with what different types of automata presented. Okay, so automata is supposed to be automaton. Actually, automaton. Automaton means a machine, a single abstract machine. So this abstract machine is going to give you certain sort of computational works. So how it works? So I have given you a representation of how a computer will be. We have, since we are a computer engineers, I have taken the automaton to be a computer, right? So this automaton, what I have given over here is supposed to be CPU. Okay, so CPU, and this is called your memory unit, temporary memory unit, and this is supposed to be your input. This is the screen or the monitor will be your output device. Okay, so the computer has been represented in the form of a theory of computation aspect. So this automaton CPU processing, how a machine works. Okay, so this is supposed to be presented in the form of state transition machines. Okay, so how it is getting processed. This, I have given you a temporary memory. I am showing you a concept called temporary memory is there presented. So this temporary memory, if you're going to design a machine which is going to answer for your problem or which is going to solve your problem without any temporary memory. Okay, so this automaton deals with how you are going to process or how to make your computations to be done. So that automaton, when you are going to design a device, if it is going to consume much memory or minimum memory for your computation, based on that, the automata has been classified into 3 types: finite automata, push-down automata, and then Turing machines, depending upon the computational power. Okay, so when the computation is going to be very simple, very simple, that is, it is going to say whether your machine is going to answer in the form of yes or no questions. Okay, whether the instruction or the question given is yes or no model, then you needn't need any sort of memory to be there present. So finite automata, the automaton will be the same. If it is not at all going to use any sort of memory, then those are supposed to be called as finite state machines or finite automata. Okay, if you are going to have certain type of computations to be there, or if you have certain restrictions in your memory, then your computation is going to have a medium computation is needed for your device to be done. Then you need this temporary memory to be there presented, but it will have certain access restrictions. Okay, so that type of automata model, what we call is called push down automata. Okay, so this automata theory field, the best examples of this automata theory field are finite automata, push down automata, and then Turing machines. So Turing machines are equivalent to the computers. So computers, as we all know nowadays, we can say that it can do any type of computations. Okay, so when I'm saying finite automata and push down automata and push down automata will not involve any sort of mathematical functions. Okay, so those devices which are designed in the form of a finite automata model, it cannot do any mathematical calculations. For example, it cannot do any addition, subtraction, or such type of things cannot be done using a finite automata. It will, those machines which can say you an answer of yes or no, the rules after your framing, it can give you only according to the rules what you have instructed, what you have given to the system. Only based on that, if it is going to give you an answer, those models, those machines are going to follow a model of computation called finite automata. Clear? If it is going for complex functions to be solved, that is computations, where computations gets increased, then you cannot design a device in the form of a finite automata or push down automata, because when you are going for complex functions or more computations to be there presented, we need more memory capacity to be there presented. Okay, and those memory capacities, it should be in both formats, that is accessible, that is we might have studied, we might have come across a file, okay, read only file. So there is a restriction in your access. To make you understand, I am saying you this as an example. So when you make a software to open and create only read only type of files, so read only type of files, access is restricted. So such type of models can be designed using push down automata. When you are going to have certain problems to be solved which doesn't need a memory at all, then you can design those machines or devices in the form of a model which is called as finite automata. When you go for complex functions, then that is based on the computational power. If you have to do more computational powers, then that can be solved using a model of computation called Turing machines. Clear, students? So So the machines can be designed either as an acceptors or transducers. Transducers means what you have studied, you are going to apply for some reasons and you are going to solve the problem, and the problem will give you some sort of a solution or an output in the form of what you desire. Okay, so it just doesn't say you yes or no. You can take or not. So such type of output will not be there presented. Okay. So next, computational theory. So as I have told you, computational theory deals with how to find out whether a problem is solvable or whether it is unsolvable. That is, whether you can compute or whether you cannot compute. So what it actually means is that if you can solve a problem, then sure you can identify a algorithm. Okay, you can derive a solution. If you are able to derive a solution, you will say how you have derived that solution. You will be able to show the procedure. You will be able to say out what is the algorithm or what is the steps behind the solving process. So if you are able to write an algorithm to solve a problem, then we say such type of problems are supposed to be solvable. Okay, unsolvable problem, it is supposed to be the algorithm, you cannot solve the problem, you don't have any algorithm to be there presented. Still now, much research areas, when you go for research areas, those are all those problems which are taken by the researchers are supposed to be unsolvable problems. Okay, till now it is not solved. They take that problem and they are trying to find out a solution. If you are able to find out that solution, then the unsolvable problem becomes a solvable problem. Okay, so next, complexity theory. So this complexity theory, identifying whether a problem you have identified is solvable or unsolvable comes under computational theory concept. Complexity theory, it will deal after finding a solution in the form of an algorithm, how far it is efficient from others who have also proposed a solution for the same problem. Okay, so identifying whether how efficient the algorithm which you have considered in your computation, used for your computation, how far it is efficient. Finding out this details is the study of your complexity theory. So since we are involved with computers to solve the problem, the computers, how much time it takes to respond after implementing the algorithm in the form of a programming language, how fast it is going to respond and how much of memory space it is going to take out. All those studying about all these details in turn will give you an efficiency concept. That is what is called in your complexity theory. So we classify the problems if it is able to solve in polynomial time. Okay, so we know an algorithm can be solved in two types of time, that is n square 2 power n. Okay, so n square means the exponential part. If it is supposed to be a constant, we can say the efficiency, if it is going to be measured in terms of a polynomial time, this is supposed to be tractable problem. That is, you are able to give a quick response for it. Intractable problem. Intractable problem can only be verified, it cannot be solved. There is a difference between solvable, verifiable. Okay, so solvable means if it is to be made understood within a specified amount of time, but it takes a long time to work out, but you can easily verify the solution. Yes, it satisfies my, or it is going to provide me a solution for this problem. You can verification and validation. Okay, so verification can be done fast, but deriving a solution for that particular problem will take a long time. So such type of problems we call it as intractable problems, or in the concept of theory of computation, we can say when you have more type of solutions to be there present, it is supposed to be called as non-determinism. Okay, so non-deterministic. Non-deterministic means for one problem, there can be many type of solutions. This can be taken, and for depending upon the context, it differs. Okay, so tractable for problems, it will be deterministic. So those problems that can be solved in a deterministic way, those will come under tractable, or the complexity we call it as polynomial time complexity, P problems. That is what has been given over here in your thing. Problem can be a solvable, unsolvable, decidable or undecidable. So undecidable problems will have many solutions, many algorithms to be there for the same problem to be solved. Decidable problems, it will have a deterministic time. Only if you go by this way, it can give you exact answer in a faster manner. That will be there in your P type of problems. We call those problems to be as P type of problems. Okay, so here, so altogether your syllabus is comprised of only these these three types of theory fields: automata theory, complexity theory and computational theory. 80% of your syllabus will be oriented towards automata theory, and 10% will be there given for your computational theory concepts and complexity theory concepts to be discussed in your syllabus. But when you go for research area, this complexity theory and computational theory will play a major role. Okay, just providing a solution, just providing an algorithm for a problem to be solved will not, that is enough for a undergraduate level. When you go for research level, this complexity and computational theory plays a vital role in completion of your research work. Okay, so this slide will say you certain details about where your theory of computation, as I told you, theory of computation is the foundation for all sort of technical fields which is emerging. So it can be used for text processing, for compilers construction. Even though we are getting outdated of compilers, we are moved towards a translator called interpreters. Okay, so nowadays interpreter type of concepts are getting more spoken rather than in earlier 1980s or whatever programming formal languages we are going to, so formal language supporting softwares when we are going to develop, those were dependent on a translator. I have told you the machine has to give instructions in its own understandable form, right? So to make it understand, we had compilers. We need certain translators to be there presented, and all the previous structured programming languages were dependent on a concept called compilers. Okay, so for designing a compiler, when you are going to develop a software, when you are going to develop a programming software or any type of softwares, programming softwares, compilers were much important in ancient days. Now it is not so like that. Okay, then there is other types: advanced cryptography and information security, artificial intelligence, distributed systems, neural networks. All these areas are supposed to be the most emerging, and still under research, many researchers will be doing their problems to be solved on these areas. Okay, so this cryptography and information security, these you will be studying in your syllabus also. It is one, those subjects, these subjects are supposed to be a part of your curriculum. Okay, so if you study theory of computation, it will be helpful. When you come for the next semester, you will be learning about compiler design, artificial intelligence, distributed systems. All these areas will be also given a basic concepts you will be studying in your curriculum also. Okay, hope you have had a little bit idea of what is the need of studying this subject. With this, I call upon Mrs. G. Shobha to continue the session, to explain further slides of this session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
you
ma'am.
can take over the session.
Yes, yes. Thank you, ma'am. So, good evening to one and all present here. I'm Shobha, Assistant Professor from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. And today in this second session, I'm going to explain about how the computations are done. Okay, because so far, whatever ma'am has already told you, she has told you on how the theory of computation evolved. Okay, so when it evolved, how it evolved, and all these things she has been explaining you. And now I'm going to explain you how these computations are actually done. Okay, so before I tell you how the computations are being done, when you take a problem, I hope you remember that ma'am told that in the first slide itself that it is the third intellectual revolution and it is everything is computation here. Like for example, any real-time issue that you take, say for example, say you are driving a car, or you may be riding on a bike, or whatever you do. Okay, so even your day-to-day work. Okay, so everything nowadays is viewed as computation. So when you view everything as computation, you must be very clear when everything is computation. Okay, you have to try to solve the problem. Okay, so when there is a problem, there will be a computation and there will be a solution. So when you are trying to compute a solution to any of these problems, first of all, we have to see whether it is practical to solve the issue. Okay, and whether it is physically possible to implement it, and whether you can efficiently do it. Okay, so first we have to see, listen very carefully, you have to see whether it is practical to solve the problem. Okay, and whether it is physically you'll be able to implement it or not. And then you also have to see whether it is efficient. Okay, so because why you have to see whether it is efficient or not is because whenever you provide a solution to an issue, it has to be efficient enough than what is available already. Okay, and also you should see whether it is ethical or not. The thing is,
sorry to
yes,
disturb.
sir.
You can present your screen. Your screen is not presented.
Okay, sir. Just a minute. I'll check. Sir, is my screen visible now, sir?
I don't think so, ma'am.
Okay, sir. I'll try it again, sir.
Yeah, it is sharing now actually.
Okay, sir.
You can go for slideshow and maximize the screen, and you can also remove that hide button actually at the bottom.
Okay, sir. Done, sir. Sir, is it visible now, sir?
Yes, you can go for it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
okay. You. So whatever I was discussing so far, see, everything is computation, and when you go for computation, before you start to derive a solution, so you have to see whether it is practically possible and whether it is physically implementable, and you also able to guess whether it is efficient or not, and also you have to see whether it is ethical. Ethical in the sense you always have to do the right thing, because sometimes if that is not the right thing to do, normally humans will think of it and they'll avoid to do such things. But whenever you're trying to give it to a computer or a computing machine, you have to concentrate on that also. So you have to see the ethical issues in it also. Okay, then normally Madam has told you about the evolution, like how it all started from Alan Turing, and after that, what are all the machines that evolved and all those things. And ultimately, in this era, actually, we have end up in a computer. okay, whatever it is, either it be a laptop or whatever the system that you have, ultimately we have end up in a computer for any problems that you have. So whatever problems you have, you just go to your computer, you just try to find a solution. Okay, so that is what is the ultimate thing. We just view the computer as a problem solver. Okay, so and also the thing is, when you see the computer as a problem solver, you need to communicate to the computer. Okay, so whatever way you communicate. Okay, so I am not going to narrow down into the communication part, because madam has already told you the languages whatever we have. Okay, like let it be a regular language or let it be a, you know, whatever language it is. So all that she has already told you. And the thing is, the computer will do a computation and will give you the result. So it is actually a reactive system. So you just say something to it and that it calculates and reacts to whatever you want. Okay, so and then any computation ultimately ends up in a solution, and which normally is given in the form of an algorithm. Okay, so and when we see algorithms, normally we end up with complexities also, and you have to see whether the algorithm can be calculated in a time, within a time limit. Okay, whether the time is infinite or not, that you have to be very careful. So these things are the basic things before we, you know, before we try to solve any problem, we have to look into all these things. And also we should have all these insights. Like when I tell you all these things, I hope you will understand. See, the first thing which we are going to see is the representational insight, because whenever I explain you a problem, you will understand it with whatever language that I speak to you. Okay, but consider a computer, it can understand only zeros and ones. So that is a representational insight which you should see in it. Okay, so that everything should be represented in that form. Okay, and then when you come to the processing insight, see, some input you have to give and some processing must be done, and then the ultimate output will come to you. Okay, so in that point of view also you should have a proper idea. And the next insight that you should have is the structural insight. Any problem that you are going to solve, you should be able to give a sequence of events that happens when you go on solve a problem. Okay, so that is a structural insight that you should have. And also some events are repetitional there. Okay, like how you have loops, that is why you have loops in the program. Okay, so and how far you are going to compute it, that insight also you should have, and how you are going to implement it, and what are all the requirements when you implement it. And these insights you should have when you go for computing a problem. So now I just move on to a riddle now. So I hope all of you are listening. See, just listen now, because I'm going to give you a riddle now and you are going to solve it. Okay, so that riddle is a very, very easy riddle and a basic riddle what you would have heard already. Okay, but why am I giving you a riddle is because so far I have been telling you that every problem, you know, every problem nowadays, people try to compute a solution to it. So when I give a problem to you, your brain will actually plan a sequence, okay, of what to do next and what to do next, how it should be done, and what are all the constraints that are involved, and all these things will actually roll into your brain actually. Okay, so that will ultimately give you an idea of how to actually solve the riddle, and I want that to happen to you now. And now let me explain the problem to you. Now just see, this is a one fine morning. This man is having possession of these three things. That is, he is having a goat with him, and wolf is also with him, and he is also having a cabbage with him. Okay, the problem here is, because a man with these three things with him is not a problem, because the man will see to it that the wolf does not eat the goat and the goat does not eat the cabbage. But the problem here is, he is on one side of the river, and for some work he has to move to the other side of the bank. Okay, so other side of the river, he has to reach the other bank. Okay, so and here the only means of transport is, he is having a boat, and that boat can actually hold only one of these items at a time. he can transfer only one at a time, okay, and he has to transfer all the 3 to the other side, okay. So here the problem is, if he leaves the goat and the cabbage together, and if he's taking the wolf, the goat will ultimately eat the cabbage, okay. Ultimately, when you see the next thing, if he is leaving the wolf and the goat together, and if he is taking the cabbage with him, the wolf will end up eating the goat, okay. So this is actually the problem. So at a time, he can take only one item with him to the other end, okay. So he can travel here and there as many times as he want, okay. That is not a problem. There is no limitations at all, okay. So he can travel as many times as he want, but he has to take all these 3 things to the other end. So this is the actual problem. So do I have any solutions from the students, and can anyone respond to me? Or even if you have anything, you can ask me. I just give you only 30 seconds for this. So can anyone respond? So can anyone respond? Do anyone have any idea of how to solve this issue? It is very simple. Okay, so can someone unmute and speak to me so that I can proceed further? Yes, I could hear somebody. Can you speak up?
Initially, the man has to place the goat onto the next side. Man has to place the goat onto the next side.
Okay.
And then he has to place the cabbage. Again, he has to came back to the initial position, and then he has to fetch the cabbage and then place onto there. And then after that, he fetch the goat and then go to the starting stage. Likewise, it goes on. And finally,
right.
it reaches the state.
Exactly. So what the solution she has given is right, okay. And this is not the only solution. There are also other solutions to this problem, okay. So let me explain this. Thank you, Ma. Thank you. So let me tell you what would have happened in your brain when you were thinking about this problem. So when you think about something, or when you think about some problem, there are certain essential things which you have to have in mind if you are going to compute a solution for that problem, okay. So according to computer science, a computational thinking should have these things. That is, the first and the foremost thing is a decomposition. Like initially, you should be able to imagine how to divide the problems into further problems so that you can solve it easily, okay. You must first think of a solution, like, okay, let me take the goat first, because the wolf will not eat the cabbage, okay. Let that be the first solution, okay. Like that, you have to decompose, and then you have to proceed. And then when you see the next point here, it is actually pattern recognition. The thing is, you should be able to follow any kind of patterns, because in this thing, a man rowing from this end to the other end and from this end to the other end, it is actually a pattern which just goes on until you start from the first stage to the final stage. First stage here is a man with the 3 things on one bank, and the final stage here is a man with the 3 things on the other bank, okay. So that you should have. And abstraction is, you should be able to find a simple solution, like you should have a minimalized view of any problem that is given, and you should also be able to design an algorithm for it, because now we are not going to concentrate on algorithms, but let me tell you how this solution is actually implemented. Now there are 2 ovals that you can see on the screen. Now I'm just trying to bring out the solution, okay, in the form of a transition diagram. This diagram is called a transition diagram, which just gives the solution what she has told me, okay. So here, when you see, the first stage is wherein you have the man, okay, a wolf, goat, and the cabbage on one bank of the river, and there is nothing. This is the null symbol, so there is nothing on the other end, and this is the final state wherein you have there is nothing on this end, because see here everything was there, but now here there is nothing, and this hyphen you have to imagine it as a river, okay, and on the other end you should have the man, wolf, goat, and the cabbage, okay. So this is what we accept. This is what you expect, okay. So now when you start with the first stage, now actually what happened, as she told, you are going to take the goat to the other part. So what happens when the man is a must, okay, when you have a transition here, or when you have the event happening here, the man along with the goat goes to the other end, okay. So the wolf cannot eat the cabbage now. Okay, now that I have included another thing here, like if you are taking the goat back, you will go back to the same stage. So whenever I have a transition like this, I would have invented a reverse event also like this, okay. So that you may not have to consider now, just consider this alone, okay. So now the goat is taken to the other end, okay. Now after the goat is taken, the man rows back to the other end. So what happens, the man should go here, see, now the man is back here in this place. Okay, now what happens next? This is again a reverse action which needs no explanation. Okay, so now what happens? The man has come to this bank, and now he is taking the wolf with him. That is why I have mentioned W here. He is taking the wolf to the other, he is rowing and he is reaching the other end. Now the man, wolf, and goat are all in the same bank. Now this man has to, just a minute. Now this man has to travel back to the other thing with the item with him. Like now what happens? He is going to take the goat with him. Okay, now he is again, initially he brought the goat here. Now again he is taking back the goat. Okay, so now wolf alone is left here. Now he has taken the goat with the cabbage again. Now what happens here? Now he should not take the goat to the other end, because wolf and goat cannot stay together. What he does is, now he takes the cabbage with him and he leaves it with the wolf. Okay, so after safely leaving the cabbage with the wolf, okay, he returns empty-handed to the other end, and he is with the goat now. And at last, in the last transition, that is at this event, he again travels back and he comes with the goat to the other bank of the river. Again, this is a reverse event which I told you about. So this is one of the solutions what she has suggested. And from here, this is another path wherein instead of taking the wolf, you can also sometimes take the cabbage. Okay, you can take the cabbage, and then after taking the cabbage, the man can actually take the goat with him. Okay, and this is again another solution which when you have a close look, you will be able to understand. I hope you would have understand that diagram which ultimately led you to the final state. So in this model, when you say you had some group of possible states, when you had if you had seen the riddle, like you would have imagined about some group of state, like the man is with the goat, and the man is with the wolf, and a wolf being left alone with the goat, like that. All the states would have been in your mind, and those states we are able to visually give it as a diagram here. So an oval has replaced whatever imaginations you had. And also there are some stimulus, the transitions which we made. So those are considered as the inputs, because a man rowing from one place to the other place. So those are all this stimulus that causes changes in the state. See, a man at this end and the man is at the other end. So this is the stimulus that causes the change. Okay. So, and then all these are desirable behavior alone is followed, because in no place we left the wolf and the goat together, or in no place we left the goat and the cabbage together. So all that we have followed is a desirable behavior according to this riddle. Okay. So, and then we had a reasonable start, because the man along with the three items at the beginning is a reasonable start. And the constraints, obviously, you know that he can take only one item at a time. So these things are the solutions for this particular problem, the riddle that I gave you. Likewise, when you just take any other problem, like when you are driving a car, okay, so when you try to compute a solution for driving a car, the possible states are infinite. See here, in this problem, everything is finite, because the river there and both the banks and the man traveling with the things, the constraints and everything is very clear here, okay, so that you will have a plan of how to do it actually, okay. So you now we have seen a very simple model of how to actually carry out with the computation and how to give input to a computer, and all these things we have seen. But there are furthermore several other research areas, as madam has said. See, this extends even to one, you know, like artificial intelligence or whatever it is. So furthermore, any computations, okay, so but there may be any number of computations, there may be solvable problems, or they may be unsolvable problems, but for all those problems, this is the basic computation that you should know, okay. So that is why you go for this paper, which is called as a theory of computation. And why should we study theory? Because just by speaking something or just by trying to justifying something with the diagram, that is not normally accepted by researchers, okay. So they always need a theory. So for that reason, we go for a theory, and when you have a theory, normally you require a proof for it, okay. So ultimately, we'll try to you know, explain ourselves with proofs, some mathematical proofs, and then accordingly the representation which I gave you is a actually a transition diagram. That is one of the representation, okay, that we will be using in this subject till the first unit. I mean, starting from the first unit till the end of the fifth unit, we'll be using such kind of representations and the languages, because whatever I speak you can understand, but whatever we speak the computer cannot understand. So you should be able to give it in their form, like in zeros and ones, because we cannot speak zeros and ones. That is why we go for a regular language or a context-free language or a context-sensitive language or whatever language, you know, like whatever we have till nowadays. Okay, so even after this, if anything evolves, for all those things, this is the basic, okay. So, and also we should see whether the feasibility of you know, computing a thing. So these things you have to see, okay. Now, if you want to have a look of whatever we have given you, you can visit this, you know, site, which is arunai.org and skill development. If you go to this site, you will be able to find this presentation. So it will be helpful for you. And I just want to thank the management, and I want to thank Registrar Sir and Principal Sir and also HOD Sir for you know, motivating us and providing us this opportunity to enlighten the students on this particular topic. Thank you, sir. And also I thank our you know, colleagues like our co-faculty members for supporting us in this, and also I thank our students for patiently listening to us all this time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful
sir.
speech related to the program. And
Thank
I
you.
thank both the speakers of today's program on the topic of prologue on theory of computation with the name of Right Pitch to the Right Audience. As I in the beginning told, the platform that we want to create very clearly, especially the professional platform we want to create it for the upcoming engineering students. The basics is very important, that may be in any kind of a crucial subjects that you have been studying over it. Because when you are going for an upcoming curriculum, that may be your analytical subjects or the theory subjects, whatever it may be. But when you are going for the any kind of a project analysis, or when you are going for any pilot project designs, you want to know which particular subjects and which particular language can have a relationship. So I think maybe in second year you studied some of the subjects like in your data structures or an object oriented programming language. then try to think it the upcoming subjects that is for your third year, in what way the subjects that you are studying to be for the upcoming subjects can able to have a relationship with the programming language, and try to develop an application related to that. So that's what actually the professional skills is basically designed to enrich your knowledge. So thanks to all the students to be in the part of this program of a web series 1, and we will shortly meet on the second version on the forthcoming name to be called as a future of networking. That will be handled by our faculties to be shortly on the forthcoming days, I think so. So thanks all the faculties as well as the students to be the part of this web series, and thank you all. Thank you.